Hello, good afternoon from Barcelona. Carlos Pérez here from McNeel Europe. Today, together with my colleague Guillermo Varela, also based in Barcelona. And today it's a new food4Rhino webinar where you will learn more about using PlanFinder to draw apartment floors, floor plans quicker. PlanFinder works both on Rhino and Grasshopper, and Jeroen van Lith, the founder of PlanFinder, will make a presentation about it and a live demo. Jeroen has a background in architecture and software development, and he focuses mainly on using machine learning to accelerate architectural design. This webinar is being recorded, so if you miss one part of it, it will be later full available on this same link. And on the right panel of your screen, there is a chat. Feel free to use it. Guillermo and me will try to answer some questions on the fly. And if we don't know the answer during the last 10-15 minutes, Jeroen will do so. So Jeroen, many thanks for being here. We are eager to see PlanFinder and learn how to use it.
Cool. Well, yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I'm a really big fan of Rhino. I've been using it for, I think, around 12 years right now. So I feel like a dinosaur, but I'm super happy about it, and it's always been like super pleasing to use. So it's really great. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Great. Okay, then I'll do my presentation about PlanFinder. So in terms of content today, I will first talk a little bit about my background, where I'm coming from, and then I will talk about PlanFinder, the app, and give you a small demo of both the Rhino and the Grasshopper version. And then in the end, like you mentioned, there will be some time for questions. So my background, well, first of all, hello everyone. I'm indeed Jeroen van Lith. It's very difficult to pronounce, so thanks mom and dad, but it's a Dutch name. I'm born and raised in the Netherlands, and I've studied architecture in the Netherlands as well. So I studied architecture at TU Delft, and then I entered at various firms in the Netherlands and Germany. And when I graduated, I also worked as a professional architect at Hen in Berlin, a really cool experience. And afterwards, I went back to university and did a second master's degree in computer science. Then worked for 2 years as an AI researcher, and then founded PlanFinder. And what was for me very interesting was when I was working as an intern, especially, I had to draw a lot of housing plans. And the first one was very difficult and interesting to draw. And the second one a little bit less. And the 10th one became a little bit boring. And I thought, why is this? Why is this that these floor plans, they're not so interesting to draw? And I came up with this kind of hypothesis that like there are quite a few restrictions when I was working as an architect. So, you know, first of all, there was like the market, right? Like all these people around you as an architect who expect certain things from you. The developer who wants to have the building designed in a certain way, end users want to have the designed in a certain way. So that was kind of an influence which made that I wasn't like fully free in what kind of floor plan I could design. You know, I came just from university, so I wanted to create like crazy designs, but sadly I couldn't. So I learned that. And then the second reason I felt like was that, of course, sadly there are regulations. So every now and then, I almost felt like I was just solving a puzzle in terms of regulations, that the floor plan which I was drawing was just kind of almost an outcome of all the limitations which regulations bring you. So I felt like there was also kind of a really strong restriction in the kind of design freedom which I had. And then the last one, last but not least, was the cost influence. Cost obviously and sadly also have an influence on how much freedom you have as a designer. And I also felt like that when I was designing, like if you do a very expensive project, maybe a super expensive project, then you're relatively free and you can do, more crazy designs. But the 95 to 98% of the projects you do, you don't have so much freedom, and then you're also kind of restricted by the facade and circulation concepts, which are fairly normal. So I felt like this was very interesting, that like I came from university and thought I'm going to design all these crazy buildings. And when I was working in the practice, I felt that, actually there are quite a few restrictions, and there are not always that many possibilities in your plan design possible. And especially I think in residential. But this was very interesting for me. I thought like, whoa, this is kind of, it's not as, maybe also not as creative as I thought it might be. So this was kind of really interesting observation for me. I felt a little bit like with every plan I was drawing, like that I was reinventing the wheel every time. Because although the plan might have like a different outer walls or a different shape, you're kind of always following the same logic. And it felt at some point to me a little bit repetitive. There's still some small things which I could change, like maybe you can move a wall a little bit, or you can have a terrace on one side or the other. But I did feel like in the end, the design of a floor plan of an apartment felt quite repetitive. And the other problem which I had with this was that since I was kind of trying to draw every plan from scratch, it felt time consuming, because I felt like, I want to maybe design a cool building outline or a nice facade, but I was, I needed quite a bit of time for actually these kind of quite boring plans. So I was kind of a little bit annoyed by this, by thinking like, why am I trying to reinvent the wheel with every plan I draw? And another thing which I was a little bit annoyed by was that, like, in the firms I worked with, like, they had a lot of past projects, so they've already done like so many floor plan designs. They've already like solved so many little puzzles. And like generally, I think in architecture, we don't really use those past projects. So those past projects are just chilling on a server somewhere. But I couldn't really kind of systemically use them in new projects. And I felt like that was such a shame, because all these architects previously have already been through all these kind of nitty-gritty puzzles of apartment floor plans. So I thought like, this should be done in a different way. So then I thought like, okay, it would be really cool if we can actually use existing drawings. So drawings or plans of existing projects, and in a way kind of like learn from the past. Like I was thinking like academics, they never start like a scientific paper from scratch. They always look at what's been done before and try to use that to build something new. And I thought it was a super interesting way, or super interesting analogy of like, what if architects can do the same, where we can say like, we look at what other architects have been drawn in the past, and we use that to build new things, and to kind of not having to reinvent the wheel, and to really focus on other things of the design. In that way, I think we could perhaps save a lot of time and also focus on what's really creative. So I was thinking like, maybe drawing the floor plan of a room, of a toilet, is maybe not the most creative thing in architecture design, but maybe you want to create like a really innovative facade, or you want to create a interesting massing. So there's so many ways, I think, in which you can be innovative. And I thought like, maybe residential floor plans is just something which is less creative than, for example, doing a really crazy facade. So I felt like, if we can use these existing drawings in a clever way, then we can, become better architects, and we have more time for real creativity. So I thought it was a very interesting idea. And so I felt like this is all very interesting, and I felt like I had enough ideas to start something with this. So I started PlanFinder. I kind of felt like, I have to do something about this. And so I started PlanFinder, and so PlanFinder is a software company We're based in the Netherlands, yeah, our focus is really to kind of accelerate architectural design, and especially like accelerate the kind of boring tasks within architectural design. I think architecture is great, and I'm not saying we should all be robots. I'm just saying like it would be really great if we don't have to do the boring tasks and we can only focus on like true creativity and just be super conceptual all the time. So, so that's really the focus of PlanFinder, and with machine learning, you know, you can accelerate these tasks or some of them. And how it manifests itself is really into a plugin. So it's a plugin for existing CAD and BIM software. So you can use the PlanFinder plugin for Rhino, for Grasshopper, and for Revit. And oh yeah, that's displayed here as well. And so what does it do? This app, it does only two things. So it fits plans and it furnishes plans. And I will first talk about the fit functionality. So the fit is basically Tinder, but then for floor plans. So, you know, for Tinder, you give your profile and then Tinder will look for matches. And we do kind of the same. We look for, or you give the outer walls of an apartment, and PlanFinder looks for matching floor plans. And yeah, just as Tinder, you can, you know, explore options, or you can, you know, find a perfect fit and take it to the next level, metaphorically speaking, of course. Yeah, you can also filter on your preferences. So, you know, with floor plans, you often see like that there are slight differences in terms of plans from different countries. So if you look at a plan from Amsterdam, and if you compare it to a plan in Manhattan or a plan in Kathmandu, they're all slightly different. And that's of course because of regulations and culture and all these things. So you can filter on that as well, and you can filter on other things as well, such as room counts and sizing. And together, you can kind of really quickly get an idea of what is roughly possible within a floor plan design. So that's kind of the intention of the fit functionality. And so we have this database of floor plans, and they're from various collaborating architecture firms. And they're mostly European. And the great thing about it is that the database is growing every month. So every month we're adding plans to the database. And because we're adding them, the fits also become better every month, because there's a higher probability that the fits will fit your intended design well. So how does this practically work in terms of the algorithm? So this is kind of a sample of the database, and you can see like these plans all have different forms, and they have different room counts, they have different facade conditions, they have different entrance conditions, and so they really have like a kind of large variety in shapes and how they work. And so what we do when we fit the floor plan, we look at the shapes of these plans, and then the architect wants to has an input, let's say this blue rectangle on the left bottom. And then what we do is then we look at how well does the blue rectangle for the intended design fit the existing plans. And then, as you can see, some of them fit quite well, and some of them fit very poorly. And that's, of course, because there are all these different shapes in the library. And so what we then do is that we score them. So we look at every instance, and we look at like how well do these shapes match each other. And so you can see like some of the plans fit fairly well, and some of the plans fit very poorly, like the right bottom. You can see like it's like just a totally different plan, and it's a very bad fit. But the second from the left bottom, that one fits almost perfectly. So in that way, we can kind of really quickly see which plans fit well and which plans don't fit well. And then in the end, we return the one or the few ones which fit the best. So you have a really quick idea about plans which fits your intended design. So that's kind of the intention. And there's a small animation of how that works in this case in Rhino. So here you can see somebody trying to fit a plan for a rectangle. And a window will pop up and you will be able to browse or swipe. Well, you cannot really swipe, so it's browsing through different options. And then when you're happy with it, you can say, okay, thank you. And then it will get returned into Rhino. And here's a different building. And you can also filter on the amount of beds. So if you want to say, okay, this design should have at least, or should have one bedroom, then you can filter on that as well. So you have more control over what PlanFinder will suggest. And it works with different shapes. So, and obviously for kind of more commonly used shapes, it fits better. And if you have like a very strange shape, it will not fit so well. But there, at the same time, there is quite a variety in floor plans. And here you can see like the facade is slightly angled. So also the plan will not perfectly fit, but it's still kind of an indication of how something would roughly fit. And here you can see as well, like PlanFinder didn't find the perfect fit, but it's like, because the library is growing, it's still kind of a good indication of how this would roughly work. And so what we're also doing with enterprise customers is that we're allowing them to add their own database. And so when I was working at these firms, you know, some of the firms had maybe over 100, had done over 100 residential projects. And so many units have already been drawn. And I think this is a really cool idea in which you as an architecture firm can say, hey, we can actually reuse our plans and reuse them in the fit functionality of PlanFinder so that we can kind of gain more control over the outcome of what you'll get to see at PlanFinder. And so you can also filter on your own plan, so kind of keep your own style. I think some architect told me like, yeah, my plans are obviously always the best. So, you know, that's a really cool idea. I think that you can also kind of, you know, sustain or keep your own style or own bias in your database. And I think it's also like just a really interesting idea in general, like not only about like residential, but in general that you can reuse old projects, because it's like it's such a waste. Like so many people have thought so deeply about, you know, past projects, and it's such a waste that like we're not using those projects for the future. And I think like this is a way in which you can use some of the old projects to inspire them for your new projects. So I think that's a really cool feature. Yeah, and then, so that was the fit functionality. I'll talk now a little bit about the Furnish functionality. So the Furnish, it does what it says on the tin. So once you've already, not a completely empty plan, but a plan with internal walls in it as well, but for the rest empty, and you want to furnish it, then you can call the Furnish functionality of PlanFinder. And so what it does is it automatically furnishes or tries to furnish an empty plan, and it gives like multiple furniture options per room. So if you're not happy with one option, you can always click on that room and try to return another option. And yeah, it's always overridable by the user. So we just give some suggestions, and if you're not happy with it, you can always change the door or change the room function or change the furniture layout. And how does this work? Yeah, we use machine learning to first predict the room functions. So if you have like an empty plan and you have not given the room functions, then we predict what the living room is and what the bathroom is and what the bedroom is. And after we've done that, then we look, okay, so we've got all these rooms and we've got all the functions. We can also now make a prediction with machine learning about where the doors go. And then if you have that, so you have the rooms and the doors, then we predict where the furniture will go. And like, I think what's interesting about this is that for me, it felt a little bit the same as drawing floor plans, like if you draw furniture in a room, like let's say a bedroom, like they also seem to always follow similar rules. So for example, like the bed always or quite often is positioned at a wall perpendicular to the facade, and the bathroom is doesn't always have daylight and so forth. So it's kind of like these rules, these kind of nuanced rules about floor plans are also in the furniture arrangements. So in a way, it's like the same principle, but then yeah, engineered in a slightly different way. But it's like together we can make that we can then kind of automatically give you an example of a furniture layout. And so how does this work? Yeah, here we have an empty plan. And you have to select the facade as well. So you have to give a little bit more information. And then you have to select the internal walls. And you have to select the entrance. And then it will kind of make this guess of where all the furniture will go. And if you're not happy with a predicted room function or predicted door, then you can always change that and override it. So here the user's changing one storage room to a bathroom, and you can also click on a room to get a different furniture layout. And you can also change some other things like the wall width. And then once you're happy with it, it gets sent back into Rhino in this case. And yeah, in this case it's 2D, but you can also return it in 3D. So in that way, you can kind of really quickly get an indication of where furniture will go. And obviously, you know, now you've got everything in Rhino, you can change everything how you like it. I mean, doesn't have to be the final design, but it's more kind of to kind of really quickly get an idea of what's roughly possible. And so, yeah, this I think is really interesting, and this works right now. But something which I also want to show you is kind of more like an experiment. You know, we were kind of thinking like, you know, this furniture Furnish algorithm is really interesting because it automatically generates this furniture. And then we were thinking like, what if you can actually like connect that to a CAD file or a Rhino file directly, so that it will, with every change, it will try to update. And so it's kind of, as a disclaimer, this is not something which we have released yet, but I just think it's like cool to think about it and to see how it works. So let me play it. So here you can see like users drawn an empty apartment, and then they try to increase it, and therefore the furniture tries to automatically reposition itself so that it works. And now the user is trying to draw a room in it, and the furniture again tries to automatically reconfigure so that the plan works again. And I think it's just such an interesting way of thinking about like the future of CAD or BIM design, where the computer is not just chilling in the background, but tries to actively engage and actively come up with solutions while you're designing. So I don't know, like I'm not sure like how we will implement this, but I just think it's very interesting to think of like the computer as something which actively works with you. So I'm drawing some walls here, and then it will, you know, if you draw another wall, it will automatically think, oh, okay, there's a new room now. What should I do with this room? And then in the end, you quite quickly have like a floor plan. And yeah, I think with all of the tools of PlanFinder, like it doesn't have to be the final floor plan, but it's just more like a kind of feedback mechanism and a kind of indication of what's possible. So yeah, so that's the fit and the furnish functionality. And I think now it would be nice to kind of give you a short demo of the Rhino and the Grasshopper plugin. So I will go to Rhino. So I'm now in Rhino, and let's say I'm working on this building. It's kind of a residential building somewhere in Germany, probably. And I want to see some floor plan options for these shapes. So what you can do is you can click on this button. This is the PlanFinder tab, and you can click on Fit Plan. So if I click on here, it asks, hey, can you give me the outer boundary of the apartment. So I click on this thing, and then I say, okay, can you select the entrance? And you can select like a whole segment of this polyline or point. So let's say I want to have it somewhere around this point. And then it will come up with different plan options. So I can now click through them. And you can here with the input tab, you can always like change the input. So if you're not happy with the entrance, you can re-pick an entrance. Or if you want to change the facade, you can change that by selecting the walls here. And you can also filter on several things, as mentioned earlier. So you can filter an amount of bedrooms or bathrooms, and also on country. So if you only like to see plans from a certain country, then you can filter on that as well. And you can also filter. This is a little bit more advanced, but you can also filter on the minimal area of certain rooms. So if you want your bathroom to be at least 10 square meters because you really like bathing, then you can also filter on that. And I think like it's more for work with local regulations, right? Like regulations are always different in different countries. And with these kind of functions, we try to help you a little bit with that you at least know that you're dealing with a minimal area of a certain room within the plan, and also with a certain minimal width. And then in the settings, you can also change like the wall widths, and you can tweak some things with regards to fitting. So how many plans you want to see, how much they're allowed to downscale and upscale, and whether you want to see it in 2D or 3D. And let's say for this plan, we want to have a plan where we see we only have the sides as a facade and not this top region. So then we can say like, okay, we select the walls here, and then we select, we want these walls to be the facade. And we press enter, and then it will only show you options which are meeting that condition. So this one is an option, and then this one is an option. And there are some more. I think in this bathroom is quite large. So I think this one is quite nice. And then you say, okay, I'm happy with this plan. And then it will be returned in your Rhino file. And these things are all blocks. And you can turn on the room sizes, and you can turn off furniture if you like. But so you're kind of have some control over how you want to see the plan. And so you can do that with other plans as well. So this is like a smaller space. You can see here, okay, this is more like kind of a studio thing. Let's look at another option. Here you can see like a bedroom, which is quite small. So maybe it's better to have this one, I guess. So if you then say, okay, then you've got another plan. And so you can kind of really, I think quite quickly get an idea of what's roughly possible for the floor plans in your design. And so, yeah, we could continue this a little bit. So, so for this plan, it's probably going to be similar to the other one. So we say again, okay, we want these things as facades. So we're going to keep this one, and we do the same with this one. So, we've got some, and then we've filled this region, and yeah, this one was we've already done as well. So let's look at this one. This one obviously has like a different facade condition. So let's try to fit a plan here. And you can also like, obviously we should be able to assign the facade here. So it's clear that we only get plans which have this facade condition. And so, yeah, if we're happy with one of these plans, we can say, okay, that's great. And then we just have a very quick kind of idea of what is possible. And, it works kind of as well as the input is. So if you have a very crazy form, then the algorithm will not really be able to fit a nice plan or fit properly. And if you have like a kind of really commonly used form, then it will more easily fit something. So let's try to fit like this L-shaped apartment. So here you can see like, okay, this is kind of almost fit, but it doesn't really perfectly fit. And the first one is always the best fit. And then if you go further, you can see like these plans don't really fit the input anymore. So if you would like to say, okay, this is a pretty okay plan for now, let's keep this plan. Then we say okay, but then you can see, okay, this is not a perfect fit yet. So if we would like to, we can then quickly edit the plan if we'd like to, I don't know, something like this. Oh. And then we've got roughly like a plan for that area. And then let's do one more. So let's try to fit a plan for this one. So we say, okay, fit plan. Then we select, okay, it should be somewhere here, the entrance. And obviously not this plan, because this one has a facade here. So we can say again, okay, just give me the facade on this side. And then we can say, okay, this one is pretty okay. We might want to have a different bathroom. We click on a different bathroom. And are there any other cool options? I think this one is the nicest. And then we say, okay, thank you. And then we've got that plan as well. So that's really kind of the fit functionality of PlanFinder in Rhino. And yeah, it's just like a really quick way to kind of see what's roughly possible for a certain unit. And like I said earlier, like it doesn't have to be the final design, but it could just be like a interesting way of like when you're maybe in a very early stage of the design process, it can give you a very quick indication of what's roughly possible. And it can also then help you with kind of, you know, you can easily try out different massing and see how this has influence on your design. And so what if you don't want to fit a certain plan, but you've already drawn the internal walls, in this case, in this plan, then you can use the Furnish functionality to create a plan. So you can click on Furnish and it will ask you to select the boundary of the apartment. Then it will ask you, okay, where's the facade? So let's just follow this principle that the facade is basically around here. Then, so we select that. Then we select the internal walls and the entrance point. And then I will come up with some solution for the furniture. And you can always override it. So for example, like let's click on this bathroom and see if there are other options. So like maybe the user wants to have a bath here. And you can also change the wall width and whether doors open inside or outside and so forth. And then you're happy with it, and then you've also created this plan. So in this way, we kind of aim to kind of be flexible. Like if you already have the internal walls, you can still kind of perhaps like accelerate some of your workflows by using this Furnish functionality. And like I mentioned earlier, like it doesn't have to be like the final design. You know, maybe this toilet's better somewhere here. But it can just give you a really quick indication of what's roughly possible. So that is really it for the Rhino plugin. Then we can also test the Grasshopper plugin. Let me see. So here we've got a Grasshopper workflow. So we've got an entrance, a point, and we've got a curve. In this case, this blue line here. And we connect it to the PlanFinder fit component. So it's good to know that right now in Grasshopper only the fit functionality works, and the Furnish is not yet supported, so you can only fit plans. And you can kind of like in this interface, you can also set your preference. So whether you want to have a facade somewhere, you know, the amount of bedrooms, bathrooms, and so forth can all be also operated from Grasshopper. And you can also, you know, here you can say like how much you want the plans in the library to downscale or upscale, so to kind of have more control over the output. And then it will return multiple plans. So it will return, I've asked for 3 plans. So it will return 3 options. And then you can pick one of these options here, and then you can deconstruct them, and then you can visualize them in a bit nicer way. So, and then, yeah, so basically it's because it's linked to this rectangle, you can then move it, and it will try to update along the way. So yeah, in that regard, it's a different way of using PlanFinder, I would say, but it's kind of interesting as well to kind of get that feedback in a very different way. And yeah, you can like do this obviously with 1 unit, but you can also use it with multiple units. So let's have a look how we could do that. So in this file, there are multiple designs of apartment buildings with multiple units. So let's connect this visualization part to a multi-unit configuration. And then you can see here, like, okay, this is like an apartment building where there, where there are actually 2 unique plans, right? Like those are unique, and the other ones are all, copy paste basically, or they have to rotate and reflect. But they're quite similar, and then it will kind of do that all at once. And I think like what you can also do then is like you can iterate through the options, right? So there are different options per plan, and you can loop through them. So that's kind of interesting as well, that like, it doesn't have to be the final design, but it can be, yeah, you can basically browse through them. I can also show that with the other, with the first option, where you say like, okay, I've got this input, but I'm actually not happy with this plan. And then you can say like, okay, give me another plan. Maybe I prefer this plan over the other one, or this one. So it's kind of like designed as well to kind of in a different way be flexible with your input. And so, yeah, we can also like try to connect it to a different building. So we just did this one, but let's connect it to this one. And we can see like how it responds to these kind of more funny looking shapes. So let's move this chunk back to this algorithm, and then we'll have to assign some units here. So curves, thank you very much. This one, stop curve. Okay, so we have to say second curve, and then we have to give it circulation. So then it will try to fit all the plans, and as you can see, like because the form is a little bit not completely rectangular, it's kind of close to the shapes, but it's not perfect. And that's because the plans in the library don't have this shape, so it cannot fully adjust to the shapes which are intended in this design, but it can kind of respond, in a kind of okay way, in my opinion, to what the intended design is. And then if this really becomes the final design, you can obviously bake it and then continue with it later. So yeah, that's kind of how you could do it, could work with it in a multi-unit configuration. And then you can also use it in like more parametric workflows. So so let's see. Let me see. So like, let's say you're making a building along a wall, and then you can say like, okay, I want the offset of this wall to be changing. So you can like use a slider here. Oops. So we can move that slider, and then the plans will also kind of readjust accordingly. So yeah, if it's a very undeep plan, then it will look for very undeep plans, and when it's a very deep plan, we'll kind of try to look for that as well. And yeah, so if we have a certain depth we like, then obviously we can also change the vision of the width. And so with every kind of parameter, it will try to readjust to the kind of changing conditions, so that it kind of tries to stay flexible with a certain model. And you can imagine like designing full buildings with this, and with every design change, it will try to kind of reiterate to come up with good design solutions. So yeah, that's kind of how it works in Grasshopper. And that's also the end of my demo. So thanks a lot for looking at my presentation. I think to kind of conclude, yeah, so PlanFinder plugin is available for Rhino, Grasshopper, and for Revit. So if you're interested to download it, you can do that. And it's supported by Windows. And also, if you use Parallels for Mac, you can also in that way use it as for your Apple machine. And there's a free 30-day trial available, so you don't have to use any credit cards. You can just try it out and see if it's something for you. And the downloads are available on food4Rhino and PlanFinder. And yeah, with that, I would say thanks a lot for listening to me. And yeah, I'm sure there are lots of questions, so go ahead. And yeah, if you want to connect with me, then it's you can do that through my email or through LinkedIn.
Great presentation, Jeroen. Thank you. I think people are now downloading PlanFinder like crazy.
Yeah, it should be. Hopefully, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, congratulations on the plugin development and on the presentation. Many people are thanking you about it.
Cool. Nice.
There are many questions, and the first one is there on your website any kind of documentation or written tutorial or reference? People are asking for that.
Yeah, so in the Grasshopper download, there is a example file as well. So yeah, people can use that example file. It looks very similar to the one which I showed on the demo. So I think if you want to start with Grasshopper, I would suggest to look for that example file. For Rhino, I don't have an example yet, but I can make a file and upload that tomorrow.
Okay, because that's something people are asking for.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
All the parameters work, etc.
Yeah.
So great work, beautiful, amazing. This is what people are saying. Let's start with the questions one by one. Well, you said it was on Rhino, Grasshopper, and Revit. I guess it's Rhino 7 only, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Rhino 6.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have tried with Rhino inside Revit. Because any Grasshopper app works directly in Revit if you use Rhino inside Revit.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity.
Yeah, no, I have not personally used it, but yeah, because it's you can use it directly on Rhino and Revit itself. I only use it in that way, but I think it should be doable. So I think it's a great way if somebody can find out and see if that works.
You could spare like one programmation, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, people also ask if the webinar was being recorded. Yes, it's being recorded. It's available on this same link. People from many different countries in the world, from Ukraine, Chile, US, Spain, everywhere. Then, okay. So Nook Sarkar asked if there is any possibility of getting access to the repository of floor plan images mentioned here. If there is any kind of repository.
Yeah, so we have a private dataset, but there are also public floor plan datasets available for non-commercial use. So if you're interested in like datasets to use for machine learning, for example, you can look at the, for example, the Cubicasa dataset. I can send you, if you contact me on LinkedIn, I can send you a link later. But those are basically open source datasets where you can work with floor plan data.
Perfect. Then Sebastian suggests that, well, he has been working with this plugin and he likes it very much. But it should be possible also to use it with curved walls.
Sorry, with
curved walls.
Oh, yes, I agree. Like I think because like 95% of buildings don't have curved walls. We started really with rectangular, kind of more boring shapes. But I fully agree. Like in the end, there's no reason why it shouldn't work with curved walls, for sure.
Okay, maybe for the next version.
Yes, exactly.
Then Claudio Núñez asks if the plugin lets a user populate a whole floor plate with a given mix of apartments.
Yes, so you would have to assign the mix of apartments yourself. So you have to, right now you still have to draw the units yourself, and then we will fit them for you. But you can, for every unit, you can require a unit to have a certain amount of bedrooms or bathrooms. So in that regard, you do have some control over it, but we don't generate the unit outline. So that's something which PlanFinder does not do yet. So that you'd have to do yourself.
Okay. Then Vikas asked if how to control the plugins parameters and data of the options. I think this is what I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
So there needs to be some kind of reference, no, or user guide, right?
Yeah.
Galiaf Beliki asked if what about walls where we cannot put a window, if there is a way to assign these walls. And I think Guillermo already answered that. If you need to select the outside walls,
exactly.
right, and the inside walls. So that was clear from your presentation. What else? Yeah, if this is from Asos. Well, it's a nickname. It's not a name. Does PlanFinder's database currently only consist of residential housing plans, or does it include other typologies too?
Yeah, sadly, it only consists of residential plans. But I think, agree with the kind of spirit of the question, in which you could ask, like, why is it not working for other sorts of components of buildings? So I was talking to an architect last week where they were saying, like, we do a lot of toilet stalls. And it's also not so exciting to draw. So what if you can use this for toilet stalls as well? And I think it's a really great idea. So it's something which we will be working on for sure.
Okay, so you can start working on more vertical markets.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, what else? This one is from Francesco De Luca. Greetings from here. Very interesting tool, congratulations. Is it possible to add constraints like bedrooms should be on this side, living room on this other side, toilet in a specific corner, so that there is not a mix of?
So we want to add more restrictions in the future. Right now it's like a mix. So we say, okay, there are some restrictions you can initially give, and at the same time we try to offer like an array of plans. So not just one, but multiple, and you can for yourself like filter on more specific preferences later on. So these specific requirements, they're not in there yet, but I think over time we will be able to, let you filter on these kind of more kind of restrictions in that regard as well.
Okay, thanks. One more. Andres Espinosa says, if you can save your own customized floor plans in the database, and if yes, if this remains confidential or goes public.
Yeah, exactly. So with enterprise customers, the default option is that they're their own database and that they don't want to share it, and that's completely fine. And it runs locally, so we cannot even see what the database looks like. But some companies have also said like, hey, we can also share them. We're okay with that, and then then we share them with other users as well. So it really depends on what you want yourself as an architecture firm.
Okay, thanks for your concise answers. What else? Is there a way to control which program spaces go along particular walls, e.g. keeping bedrooms away from neighboring living rooms, loud spaces, etc.? I think this is same question as Francesco's, right?
Yeah.
We would love to see connection of textures with it. I guess you can, once the floor plan is defined, you can use any kind of render plugin, right, for it?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Rhino geometry at the end. No?
Yeah, and you can also like bake it in 3D. I mean, the furniture is kind of doesn't have any textures, so in that regard, like you do have to texturize it yourself. But I think the 3D geometry which you get back from PlanFinder does give much richer kind of experience of the intended design of the.
Because the furniture could be blocks or just at the end proxy points, and then have your own library of furniture, right? Reference. What else? If this is an open source project?
No, it's not open source.
It's not, okay.
we also built like a Grasshopper plugin in the COVID-19 period. So there's like this COVID-19 planner.
Mm-hmm.
That one is open source. So if you're interested in that code, I'm always happy to share it for sure.
We saw it. We saw it.
Cool.
Very nice. Okay, this question is a bit. What's the difference between the plugin for Rhino server or the Grasshopper add-on?
Yeah, so it works a little bit differently, I would say. Like, first of all, the Grasshopper plugin only has the fit functionality, and the Rhino plugin has the fit in the Furnish functionality. And I think, secondly, like, just how you play with the floor plans is slightly different in Grasshopper. So in Rhino, there's this pop-up window, and you can interact with the plans in a pop-up window. And yeah, in Grasshopper, you can play with it through sliders. So in that regard, it's slightly different, and you have to find out which one you prefer, I suppose.
It's available already for Grasshopper 2.0 alpha?
Nope. No, I actually saw like a very
I'm kidding.
beautiful,
I'm kidding.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Actually,
no, I'm super excited about it, but
I mean,
it's not yet
David Ratten doesn't recommend right now to start writing plugins because it's very alpha version. But I guess you all know about that it's already available for Rhino 8 work in progress, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. Param Patel says if there is any upgrade too, but he doesn't finish his question, so I don't know what's it about. Are you planning to adapt reclining walls?
What do you mean by reclining walls?
I guess it should be like walls that are not straight.
Yeah, like the example that you show with the diagonal wall, that it's similar the fit, but not exactly.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, customers can always, like enterprise customers, when they want to add their own database, they can also add plans which have like very strange forms. I think like in general, like we didn't really add like plans which have very strange shapes, because like these plans are really kind of used as blueprints for further design. So if we add like really strange shapes, then the probability that you can immediately reuse them becomes a little bit smaller. So in that regard, we first focus on the kind of more boring plans, and then as we grow, we can add more kind of weirdly shaped plans for sure.
Nice feedback also for you, right? All these questions.
Of course. Yeah, it's very useful.
Then Param Patel asks, is there any upgrade? Okay, he finishes now his question. Is there any upgrade to do planning with considerations FSI? FSI? I don't know what is FSI. Maybe
it means like density things or something, or
with consideration FSI. Param, if you can explain what is FSI, then later I will ask Jeroen again. Then Radza Muhammad asks, when will be other countries available? I guess for the regulations.
Yeah, so right now we actually, like, users can make their own regulations, so they can filter on certain room sizes and room areas. So in that regard, we kind of hope to have like a flexible system, so people can work with their regulations in their own country. So okay. And as we go along, we would like to add more restrictions. So
that's customizable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nice. Some extra requests by Keenan Fleihan. The first one is, would like to see some annotations, spaces naming areas function added here. That's one suggestion. Okay. And the second suggestion, also a function of showing all possible floor plans in parallel coordinates design explorer.
Sorry, I didn't quite get that last question.
Also a function of showing all possible floor plans in parallel coordinates design explorer.
Okay, I'm not sure what design explorer is, but
okay, I will send you the or Keenan. Maybe you can write Jeroen and explain this better.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think he wants to see all the possibilities of Furnish, for example, that you can change between one and the other. So if it's possible to see all of them at the same time.
Okay, yeah, all the suggestions. I think it's a really nice idea. Yeah.
Thank you, Keenan. Stephen Alton says there is a maximum size unit. Is there a possibility to enlarge?
Yeah, so you have control over how much the units in our database will shrink or grow. So, you know, obviously, like you don't want to shrink them too much because then you can probably not really walk through them anymore. But maybe a 2% shrinkage is fine to get better fits. And I think with upscaling, 5% upscaling is fine as well. It's just a little bit of a larger apartment. So in that regard, we kind of try to find a balance between fitting well and also kind of obtain or kind of keeping the spirit of the apartment with a certain sizing and not trying to upscale them too much because then it would just look ridiculous, right?
Okay. One more question, this time by CK Shim. This program is pretty impressive. Is there any function to count all unit mix numbers and GFA? Again, with GFA, I don't know what it means.
Gross floor area.
Ground floor area? Okay.
Gross floor.
Gross.
Okay.
Take the total area of each
Okay.
apartment.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so you can get like the internal, so in the Rhino version, you can get like the areas of the rooms, like kind of the internal areas of the rooms. And then in the Grasshopper version, you can get like the internal room curves. So you can then like kind of build your own script to count everything, I suppose. That's not something which we built into the Grasshopper plugin yourself, but because you have all this geometry as output, you can then use that later on in some sort of analysis for sure.
Nice. Okay, Param Patel is telling now us that FSI stands for floor space index.
Okay, yeah.
So his question was if you plan any upgrade to do planning with that includes consideration to floor space index.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that's more related to kind of the massing scale. So like, you know, with regards to densities and so forth. And right now we really focus on the units, but maybe in the future we can also add components which suggest certain massing options. And then you can kind of play around with that as well.
Okay. Then Rebats Alice asks if the lines in Rhino are 2D or 3D already.
The last thing?
The lines.
Yeah, so the lines are, they're 2D lines or 3D geometry. Depends on how you want to get the geometry returned. So,
well, you can always extrude it and use it for other programs.
Yeah,
like Visual Arc or.
Yeah.
But you can obtain the 3D directly, right? I tested it, and you have the walls and the windows and all the blocks of the assets.
So you get both the floor plan, so 2D drawing and the 3D geometry, right?
Yeah, so you can like decide in the settings if you want to have like the geometry return to 2D or in 3D. So then
3D would be a little slower, I guess. No.
No, it's like equally.
It's the same.
Fast. Yeah,
because it's extrusions. Well, extrusions are
and blocks
are not very heavy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're very basic. They're not so pretty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you can easily replace the blocks of the assets.
Exactly.
So, no
totally. Yeah.
Okay, this question is by Andre Benstra. Mm-hmm. Is it possible to log certain parts of layouts for further iterations?
That's not possible yet. So that's that's something which. But I'm really interested in how you would like to use it. So if you could contact me, I would be interested to hear what kind of applications you would like to use that for.
Okay, and the last questions, because we are reaching 5 p.m. By Stephen Alton, where exactly is the example you referred to in the Grasshopper as a tutorial? I cannot find it.
Okay, it's in the folder of the download. So there's like a folder which is called example, and then there's like a Rhino and a Grasshopper file. So it should be in there. I hope that you can find it there.
So when you download it from food4Rhino, the folder includes sample files and This is more a commercial question by Biorel Axinte. If there is an option to buy it lifetime, so if you have also a perpetual license.
Yeah, so right now we don't have that. We only have like yearly licenses.
Subscription.
Yeah.
Okay. Abdelmonon Ibrahim, when adding a plan to the server, which kind of parameters it should have, like file types, representations, colors?
Yeah, so we like to be flexible with that. So architects have their projects often in very different formats, and it's really annoying for them to kind of make them all work in the same way, because quite frankly, you know, a project from 5 years old was probably done in a different way than you would do now. So yeah, it really doesn't matter so much for us. As long as, you know, it's clear how the floor plan looks, then we can always translate it into a floor plan which we can read in.
Okay. And the last two questions, Claudio Núñez asks if with the enterprise license, do we need any kind of database knowledge or software to add private plan layouts?
No, no. So the idea is really to kind of, let us do all the work. And it's something, you know, sometimes we have to do some manual translation of these files, which we get from architecture firms. And that maybe costs a day or two, but then, you know, you've translated all these plans, and then you've got a really big database of plans which you can reuse. So I think it's totally worth the investment.
Nice. And the very last one by Srishti Srivastava. How do we connect it with some other climate-related plugins to evaluate the performance of the different plans, which would enable in taking better decision-making?
Yeah, so I think as a suggestion, you could use the room polygons, which you get out of the, for example, the Grasshopper plugin, and you can look at like how the rooms perform in terms of, I don't know, maybe daylight or sunlight or whatever, and then that could be a start. Yeah,
the geometry is there, or take the geometry from Grasshopper and then just use another plugin or app in Rhino or Grasshopper, right? Directly. And the last one. Thank you for your effort to develop an efficient workflow for the architecture industry. Do you have in mind any open source code to release partially to accelerate the development of the code and engage more developers? I think this last question kill us, no?
Yeah, I mean, maybe, like, I mean, I have to think about it, but I think it would be cool to maybe, you know, some parts of it or something to share. So it's something which we can consider.
Yeah, maybe just for the regulations, because there it's possible for you to
exactly, like
talk to all the cities and countries.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we enjoyed it a lot. Many thanks, Jeroen.
Many thanks
also,
you as well.
Many thanks, Guillermo, for supporting us today.
Thank you.
Super.
It was nice.
Of course, many thanks to the audience.
Thank you.
Also for your questions. There were a lot of questions today. I hope they were well answered by Jeroen. In any case, feel free to contact him directly at contact@planfinder.xyz. And have a nice day. This is being recorded, so if you missed the beginning, just on this same link, watch it from start. And see you in a few weeks with some new exciting webinars.
Cool.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Nice day.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Ciao.